Welcome to part 4 of 5 of the Ray Kroc and McDonald Brothers Dictaphone tapes. Over this entire tape, Ray is going to talk about franchisee compliance problems, and then Ray talks about the McDonald's System Inc. and its future with a contract with the McDonald Brothers, competition from other 15-cent hamburger stands, Ray Kroc's vacation schedule, discussing the name of the mascot and its meaning, the all-American meal of a hamburger, fries, and a milkshake, adding a dining area inside McDonald's restaurants, and new franchisees and the problems that come with growing. Everything you'll hear in this tape is from 1958, and as you listen, you will hear how Ray Kroc is putting in so much work. Alright guys, enjoy.
Disc M, October 1958.
Hello, Dick and Mac. Well, I just hung up from talking with John Cassidy in Peoria, Illinois, who is calling Frank Cotter. He is sure that he can discuss it with Frank out where there is absolutely no liability on your part. So contact on Wednesday on another matter, and he will not be in touch with me before then, but at that time he will give me the benefit of his discussion with Frank Cotter. Now, when I got your letter, I was very, very much disturbed because I thought that you felt I had done something to hurt you and to ignore you in this matter. Now, nothing is further from the truth. As a matter of fact, it is the direct opposite. I didn't want to have you worried or concerned about something, and I didn't want you involved, and that was the reason for not bringing it to your attention. First of all, it's very difficult to talk about something that is that far away from you and where you don't have the understanding of what happened from the day that place opened and the progressiveness of the thing and why they opened in Peoria and all of the things involved. In the next place, even my attorneys here in Chicago felt that they could not do the case as well. The attorney in Peoria, who was formerly the Attorney General for the state of Illinois, inasmuch as Sandy's are being sued and they are in Peoria, and the owners all live in Kewanee, which is in the same county as Peoria is. My attorneys in Chicago said that we have a very excellent case and that they didn't feel there was any question of the outcome, but that they felt that this John Cassidy could do a better job and better servicing of it down there than they could in Chicago. So they were giving me the benefit of their thinking in the matter and were completely unselfish. Well, now you can see in getting Frank Cotter involved where he knows absolutely nothing about it. And when my attorneys in Chicago feel that a better job can be done by Cassidy and Peoria, even though they are very familiar with our business, you can see why Frank Cotter could not offer anything constructive in the situation. So I simply felt, well, why get you involved and why get him involved when we are going to see to it that the thing is done the way you would want it done, the way I want it done. God damn it, we are not going to stand for any monkey business. These guys are going to sign a franchise. By God, it's a matter of buyer beware. Once they sign it, they are going to conform, and we are going to hold to it that they do conform. We've got this franchise now so goddamn tight that they can't budge, and that's the way it was meant. But as we talked today on the telephone, it isn't worth a damn if somebody isn't going to follow through and police it and make the effectiveness of the franchise work. So for heaven's sake, don't have any thoughts in any other direction except that we have complete faith in one another and trust in one another, and that what I do to the best judgment that I can put back of it, and sincerity and conscientiousness. And whether an attorney understands it or believes it is unimportant as long as we believe in each other. If I had a matter coming up in the Los Angeles area and you were willing to take it over for me, I wouldn't even ask a question of you. I know that you would do the best that you knew how for our mutual advantage. These attorneys get mixed up with wanting to be business counselors, and they seem to want a carte blanche authority that nobody does anything in the business unless they ask their permission. Well, such a thing is ridiculous for the few minutes that they think about their client's business. Now, in thinking about this, Dick and Mac, and I hope to hell you have enough faith in me to know that my interests are your interests and vice versa. Believe me, I am not in anything 1,000th of 1%. I'm in it 100%. I feel that the name McDonald's is just as proud to me as it is to you. But actually, it seems to me that in developing this thing in the future, that you would want a contract with the McDonald System Inc. and me so that you will get a half of 1% of total sales forever and ever. And as far as you are concerned, that's it. That we will operate the business according to the basic design and basic standards, but that the franchise would come from this office. In other words, if there's a long-term contract between McDonald System Inc. and the McDonald Brothers, then it would seem to me that things should be worked out so that the lawsuits, injunctions, and protection of design and copyrights and things of that kind should fall on our shoulders, and we should be able to go ahead with them whenever needed, according to our best judgment, without any involvement of yourselves. In fact, you don't even have to know about it unless you want to know about it. I don't have to tell you there are 1,001 headaches in this business as there is in any other business. And you never hear about them. And I'm not going to cry on your shoulder about some little things that are bothering us. I don't take them home and tell my wife and family about them. I either find an answer or I sweat them out or I consult with advisors or something until I find the answer. I'm perfectly willing to speak for my organization that each and every one in here will shoulder his responsibilities and will fight these things through to whatever degree they need to be done with. And there is no reason for you to be involved in any of these things unless you want to be. Certainly, you are never going to be circumvented. Your thoughts and ideas as the designer and the molder of the die for this business is indelible. It'll last forever. And there are going to be hundreds, and I hope thousands, of operators who will be forever grateful to you for developing the baby that is paying them such a fine income. This is your business, and you are free to access anything, any records, any part of this business that you want to look over or see or examine. And, of course, anything in the way of advertising and bulletins and so forth will go to you first among all the distribution to the units. And let's not, whatever we do, allow any attorneys to ever come between us for whatever reasons they may have. This is going to be probably one of the most competitive businesses in the United States. One may think they have seen a lot of custard stands, but these custard stands are going to be nothing compared to the 12, 15, 18-cent hamburger places that are going to be throughout the country. It is going to be a real dog-eat-dog competition. And we have the only real solid approach to this business. The other ones are going to die like flies. They're rackets. They're fast buck deals. They're promotions. They're going to copy us. And I'm sending along with this a clipping from the Cincinnati paper, which gives you an idea of what Henry's are doing. They just sold the entire state of Ohio to a strictly promoter. I happen to know this fellow Goldman from Chicago. As a matter of fact, he was in here some 6 months or a year ago and demanded that we turn over an entire state to him, which I said was out of the question. But our policies, our sound way of doing things is paying off. And we have the respect of top-notch people. Notice the clipping from Carol's Drive-Ins. That's a branch of Tasty Freeze. And I think I sent you clippings of ads for Chef Burger, which is developed by General Equipment Company, makers of Santa Serve machines from Indianapolis, and Golden Point, both of which are 15-cent hamburgers. So we've got a real job to do, and we can't afford to let anything get in our way. I now know of 4 15-cent hamburger deals, being Henry's, Carol's, Chef Burger, and Golden Point. And heaven knows how many more there will be. And they're going to be run loose as a goose. Those fellows are going to do any doggone thing they want to do, and the owners of the name are just going to let them do anything they want to as long as they're getting money out of it. It'll be a survival of the fittest. And I'm just as sure as I'm sure that I'm dictating this sleeve, that we are going to be at the top of the list of the fittest. I know that we have the only real, clean, honest franchise. It may be stricter on the operator, but he'll be in business a hell of a lot longer, and he'll respect us for disciplining him and for not letting him get lost with the involvement of a lot of items on the menu that on the surface look like they'll make a profit, but that would eventually kill them. And also because we won't allow our operators to serve garbage, which is what most of them are going to do in this thing. They're going to serve a chocolate milkshake that's got the chocolate right in the mix. They're going to serve frozen hamburgers that got onions ground right into the meat, frozen pre-blanched potatoes, frozen shrimp, frozen chicken, frozen tamales, and some kind of okle-dokle root beer, and probably Pepsi-Cola, and dear knows who's orange. A real schlock operation. I hope you hear from Frank Cotter tomorrow, or possibly today. But if you don't hear from him by the time you get this sleeve, please call him, as I'm anxious to get this thing underway and brought to a good end. You know, those dirty rats went over to Peoria, and as I told you, they copied the interior design of our building and our equipment layout, and now we're going to open in about 2 months in Peoria, but they haven't helped us any. I'm sure we can handle ourselves competitively with them, but they are the first 15-cent hamburger place to open in Peoria, and it doesn't do us any particular good. I know that we may not be the first to open in a lot of places with 15-cent hamburgers. That's all right, because we've got better stuff, and we'll show the other people up. But in that particular case, I am incensed about it because of their method of doing so and of breaching their promise and their franchise contract. So long for now. I'll talk to you later.
Disc N, November 1958.
Hello, Mac and Dick. I got your note of the 24th, Mac, about you're getting into the Edgewater on Saturday, November 8th. Also, that Dick will go right on to New Hampshire. Now, I've got a little problem, Mr. Anthony. Number one, I have a date to go down to Alabama with 7 other fellows for either the 13th or 14th of November for about 4 or 5 days. This is a kind of a potash and perlmutter club we have that we get away once a year for a kind of a long weekend, usually leaving Thursday night and getting back Tuesday morning or something of that kind. And this year we're going to Point Clear, Alabama, which is on Mobile Bay and where they have a real good golf course. All we do is play 18 holes of golf and play some cards and have a little relaxation. This reservation's been made for about 4 months, and when you try to get 8 fellows all together at the same time, it's quite a problem, so that I'm concerned about being here when Dick gets back. Would there be any chance of you pushing your date ahead by a week, or doing it a week sooner? Or if Dick does get back, can you folks wait till I get back, which will be about the 18th? Now, if for any reason that this doesn't work out with your plans, then would it be possible for Dick to stay here a couple of days before going on to New Hampshire? Please kick it around and let me know how we can work it out. I'd like to get a chance to run your friend down to Lafayette, Indiana, while he is here, so that he could meet my brother-in-law, Hank Grove, who has the unit there, and my sister. But it's not necessary that I go along. I could tell him how to get there, which he can get there by train, or he can drive. This is the unit I had in mind for him, and I think they would like it there if he and Hank are compatible, and I don't know any reason why they shouldn't be. But it's a good town, conservative town, but it's got Purdue University there, so there's always lots of life and action in the town, and things going on. I think the report for October will be very good, because most of the units are doing about as well as they did in September, and quite a number of them are ahead of September. So on the whole, I believe our overall business will be about the same as it was in September, except we've got more units open so that our actual total gross will be greater. The unit that opened in Memphis is off to a real good start and should be about a $225,000 volume its first year. We got a little mess in Kalamazoo, Toledo, and Canton, all of whom should have opened today, but are delayed a few days by reason of the fact that the builders haven't been paid by the investors, and they won't finish up their work until they get their money. So those are some of the problems in getting these buildings completed and the blacktopping done and all that sort of thing. Man, that part of the business is a tremendous headache. We are having a terrible time with a half a dozen of our buildings where they've got septic systems. These septic systems just never were built for peeling potatoes, particularly where there's sandy soil, because sand, starch, and water make cement. And you know what cement does in a septic system. If we could forget about getting the property and getting the building built and all of the trades involved with it, and the parking lot blacktopped, and the sewer always what it should be, and proper zoning for the sign and driveway permits, it would be a very simple business. But those are the real 20-carat problems. And of course, without a building, we just haven't got a business. Someday, I hope to have our own controlled contracting division where we have supervisory contractors, and when we take a location, that is, I'm talking about franchise realty now, when they take a location, they go in with their own supervisors and foremen and hire the local labor and put up the building. Why, our building in Kalamazoo, Michigan has taken 6 months to be built. Robert Hall and Kenny Shoes started to build their buildings in Kalamazoo when our building was well under roof. And they opened 10 days ago, and we won't open for another week in Kalamazoo. But they have their own building department, and they send their crews of supervisors and foremen there, and they make deals with the cement crew and the plumbing crew and the electrical and so forth and so on, and they go over the details of the prints, blueprints and all that, and they get that doggone building built in a real short time. We'll eventually whip it, and there's nothing wrong with it except money, because to develop your own building department is quite an expensive thing. But we have to come to it because it's extremely frustrating, where you deal with an out-of-town contractor and he subcontracts to a bunch of subs all this work, and they either don't show up half the time, or they do miserable work, or the contractor doesn't pay them and they walk off the job, and all that stuff. Man, that'd make you white-haired if you let it eat you. I wrote you fellas a letter today on this modification of our agreement, because I can see some problems with this thing of writing you about somebody that's going to sign the franchise as a corporation. First of all, if we write you and ask for permission, I don't see how you could possibly analyze the thing and come to any decision without knowing the parties involved and information of that kind. I also don't like to have anything that is so difficult to live with, where we are jeopardizing an agreement because somebody slipped in writing and asking you for permission, so that we have that in the records. I said in the letter that in a lot of these leases, they are signed by a corporation and by the president of the corporation. Well, where a lease is made for 20 years on that basis, it would be completely inconsistent to have the franchise signed by an individual, because then you'd have two different identities. One is an individual owning the franchise and a corporation owning the lease, whereas they've got to be the same. I would prefer that this be left to my judgment, because, first of all, if a corporation signs a lease and signs a franchise and they're not good operators, and they're in default of their franchise, we are going to not default, but we're going to cancel their lease because they defaulted on their franchise. And another thing is, we're not going to let any corporation control too many McDonald franchises, because I can see the fallacy in that. On the other hand, there are some of these corporations that are operating a number of McDonald units and doing a lot better than a lot of individually owned places, because in that group, they've got their own supervisors and their own general manager for McDonald's. And so Fred Turner's men contact the general manager of the McDonald units and his supervisors and managers, and they're part of an organization, and we get much better cooperation out of them than we do a lot of owners. A lot of these owners we have get hard-nosed, and they've got their little idiosyncrasies, and they get illusions of grandeur, and they start making more money than they ever made in their lives, and they get hard to talk with. And if they're just sloppy and not running a sharp operation, they take any criticism to heart, and this presents a problem because we've got to get along with them, and at the same time, we've got to upgrade their unit. Whereas if Fred Turner is talking with a supervisor of a corporation that operates 4 or 5 McDonald's, that fella is working for an organization, and he knows darn well that if he doesn't give Fred cooperation, Fred is going to go over his head, and that fella is going to lose his job. I don't know just what Frank's thoughts are in putting that in the agreement, except that he may feel that it would not be well to let any corporate organization control too many McDonald units, which I agree with, or he may feel that I might try to set up a chain under a corporate name, and he wouldn't want that to happen. Well, I agree with his first premise, but I think that it should be handled by our own logic in the matter, because the future of McDonald's is of far more vital concern than it is to any attorney or any outside interest. And we are certainly not going to do anything that isn't the best for yourselves and ourselves in long-range planning. As far as any thoughts of operating a chain of McDonald's, this is completely out of the picture, because we will, and I will, make as much money as I want to make out of this business. And believe me, I'm working 7 days a week and would be looking for more work and responsibilities like I would be looking for a double hernia, believe me. Well, I see I'm getting near the end of the sleeve, so I'll knock off for the moment. And please don't forget to let me know about your plans. And while I'm gone, you use my office, and we'll get a car for you, or have one of the boys drive you around wherever you want to go. I'm going to make a list of you to see, not only our places, but some of our new competitors. Places of that kind. So long.
Disc O, 1958.
Hi, Mac and Dick. I got your sleeve, and I like your idea about continuing with the character, but not referring to him as Speedy. I think this is a good thought for a number of reasons. First of all, sometimes the service is not speedy. And if we give fast service, which of course is our aim, without telling the people beforehand that it's fast, I think we will get a lot more compliments from them and build more goodwill. It's something like a master of ceremonies in a show who tells you how funny the joke is before he tells it, which immediately puts him on the defense to substantiate the fact that it's the funniest story you've ever heard in your life. And any character of this kind with a name is only as good as the amount of advertising and publicity using the name earns. In the case of Alka-Seltzer, they've done a tremendous job and have sort of added a word in front of Alka-Seltzer, Speedy Alka-Seltzer. And people who see that on television immediately get that little figure in their mind. In our case, people don't know whether this is a little chef or an animated hamburger. So by just having the character, letting them figure out whatever they want to think about it, I think is good. It adds to our sign, and as you say, we certainly wouldn't want to make the other signs, the older signs, obsolete. Well, I think we're in complete agreement on that, and we'll follow along those lines. Now, on this All-American, There are two ways to consider it. One is, of course, the normal reference of an All-American athlete, and the other is the All-American meal for the All-American boy and for All-American people. In other words, the hamburger, milkshake, and French fries is typically American, as against pizza, tacos, enchiladas, chili, and a lot of those things. You know, our boys in service that were over in those foreign countries, they said that for a good old hamburger and a milkshake, because they are so typically American. I completely agree with you that we should direct our main advertising and our association with the 15-cent hamburger and the 20-cent milkshake and the 10-cent French fried potatoes and, of course, the 19-cent cheeseburger. But please keep in mind that there are going to be a heck of a lot of people in the 15-cent hamburger business that are going to put ads in the paper, 15 cents, and the 15-cent hamburger is going to become quite a common thing according to what we hear and see, and that price is not going to have the same appeal that it does where we go into a town in which there has never been a 15-cent hamburger, and we get the impact that we do from that. If there are half a dozen places in that town and all advertising 15 cents as the greatest attraction, in other words, selling strictly price, it will become very common with little appeal. In the ads that have been run, they show the all-American meal, and then they list it below. A 15-cent hamburger, 20-cent milkshake, and 10-cent French fries, total of 45 cents. A family of four, just $1.80, and a family of five, only $2 1/4. It has been surprising the number of people that obviously have come up to a McDonald unit for the first time and just order four All-American. In these cases, they have to ask them what flavor milkshake they want. Now, this, of course, confirms the value of that particular ad and shows that it has pulling power. It lets those people know that there are no hidden tricks and that they can get a full meal for 45 cents. The thought is that the thinking has been done for the people and that it does not make them think for themselves. I don't think, Mac and Dick, that it's a question of doing one particular thing. I think we're correct in running an ad with just 10-cent French fried potatoes, that is, featuring that item, and then having the other items listed in the ad, but the headline is 10-cent French fries. And another ad with 15-cent hamburgers, and another ad, depending on the season of the year, with 20-cent milkshakes. And an ad that has worked very, very well is 19-cent cheeseburgers, particularly with this new cheddar cheese, which has really gone over tremendously. It has added a real quality flavor, and every one of the operators, and I probably talked with 25 of them, are very enthused about it. The question has come up, is the cheese too cheesy for some people? But it's something like going back to the malted milks of the past. People would say, well, I'd like just a little tiny bit of malt because I don't like the flavor of malt if it's too strong. Well, of course, it was always my contention with malted milk that you either like malt or you don't like it, because if you don't like it, you would have a milkshake. And if you liked the flavor of malt, you would order a malted milk. So basically, the people who order cheeseburgers are people who like cheese. And again, it's possible that somebody who liked an extremely mild cheese and nothing else might be lost. But in the long run, those are calculated risks that you have to take in order to better satisfy the people who basically like cheese and will get a better cheeseburger at McDonald's than they will at any of these other hinky-dinks that are opening up all around us. The desire, of course, is to serve a better cheeseburger than these other fellows are serving, to spend more money for the cheese, which they are not apt to do, and to get some exclusiveness to a McDonald's cheeseburger that they are not able to do or not apt to do. We really have that with our French fries because most of these other people are using frozen pre-blanched potatoes, and they just don't compare with ours. So getting back to this thing, I think we have got to be versatile, and in an area where we have a lot of 15-cent hamburger places, we will need a new approach, such as the world's finest French fried potatoes, 10 cents, and the finest cheeseburger made with egg cheddar cheese, and the all-American combination. And by doing all of these things, we are catering to the tastes of many people instead of just pounding away at our basic item of a 15-cent hamburger. Of course, it would be kind of silly to run an ad featuring soft drinks at 10 cents of orange, Coke, and root beer, because this would have no particular appeal or identification with McDonald's or for McDonald's. There's another thing in this, fellas, that with certain people, a hamburger milkshake and french fries at 45 cents has a far greater appeal than just a 15-cent hamburger, because the mother of the house or the husband might be listening to it and says, oh, hell, what can you get for 15 cents? That can't be any good. But when he hears 45 cents, then he can kind of justify that in his mind that, that might be worth looking into. In other words, sometimes you can advertise the price so low that people laugh at it. It's just too cheap sounding for them. Now, I'm not developing any philosophy on advertising. Don't get me wrong. The only thing I'm saying is that if we're versatile and flexible, and if we do all of these things, not only one of them, but all of them, that we'll have a wider appeal, and we will make it harder and tougher for our competition to follow us. I noticed that change in the sign, and I thought it looked real good. Now, let me ask you about that. Is the top portion cut down? In other words, the big red panel on the sign, is that now shorter in height than it was before? I want to know about this before I take it up with Jim Schindler. Now, one thing that we are planning, and you might, if the idea appeals to you, you might take it up with Dexter. And that is to build a square panel around the figure 200. And then have these in bulbs instead of neon, like they have on these signs that show the temperature and the time. In other words, that figure 2 would become a figure 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, simply by pushing a button. In this way, they can change that number quickly to 300 and then 400 and on up to 900 million as we send out a bulletin that that figure is now correct. It is impossible to get our operators to change every 100 million because it costs about $150. And the next thing is that with white bulbs, that figure of 200 million or 300 million will stand out, and it will flash on and off and will add additional spark to the sign. I think this is another thing that is going to separate McDonald's from the would-be boys by our having that progressiveness of 200 to 300 to 400 and so forth. Now, after I hear from you about whether the big panel on the sign has been changed in the height to allow for this small panel you got across the bottom, and I get your reaction on this change of the 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth, and of having that square panel with the 200 and 300 and so forth in small white bulbs that flash on and off, then we can get a new drawing on the sign to the various sign people to conform with in the future. It will be a question of getting the cost on a new design sign and making that comparison before making any definite decision. The cost of the building is still going up, and we want to hold the arches and sign as low as possible. I was told last night we have 9 units opening between now and the 2nd of November. Well, I heard the bell, so I better get off of here before the thing goes dead. So long for now.
Disc P, 1958.
Hello, Mac and Dick. I want to let you know that Kraft have finally agreed to work out something in a Pullman loaf for us under a special name which they used to use years ago, period. Here I go with the period, forgetting I'm not writing a letter. At any rate, I believe the name was Super Cured. This Pullman loaf would be like their Old English, which is their better grade than the American cheese they put out, and which, of course, has more cheddar cheese in it, therefore more cheese flavor. We do not know as yet what the price will be, but because it is a brand new item, and because they will start out with a fixed demand for it with all McDonald System Inc. units, we can assure them of considerable tonnage with great growth. This is something that they have not been able to consider in the past because of their standard price list on their well-known entrenched products that have national distribution. They will not hold this item strictly for McDonald's, but it is predicated on our business and will not be available to other chains and so forth for at least some time. It seems that they must make this up in very large quantities in order to keep their production costs low. So I'll let you know more about that when it is available. The Pullman loaf should be good for us so that we don't have all the broken corners or the sticky corners sticking to the paper when you unwrap a cheeseburger. I also talked with a fellow who is working on a slicer that would slice the cheese by the use of wires all at one time. In other words, it would act somewhat like our potato cutter, but it would be wires, and all you'd have to do is lift the top off and dunk it in water and start on the next loaf. It would certainly be a big help as against the slowness and the losses of the end of the cheese by using a cutter. And of course, the initial cost would be much less expensive. We have gotten most of the units to slice cheese, anywhere from 26 to 30 slices to the pound. And as a result, they are selling a devil of a lot more cheeseburgers. Well, I'll keep you informed on this as it progresses. Now, I've been fiddling with a thought for a long time, and I didn't mention it to you when you were here because we were on so many other subjects, and I didn't have anything fixed in my mind about it, and I still don't, but it's just something for future consideration because of a trend in zoning and in restrictions for permits around the country. This thought has to do with the possibility, and again I say, this is just thinking out loud with you, of extending the sides of our building out on each side of the back room, or possibly adding a room to the back of the building, or of having an alternate of either one of the two depending on the size of the lot, width and depth and so forth. The idea would be to have this room or rooms air conditioned, having a terrazza or quarry tile floor and tiled walls with booths. Now, I don't mean the conventional type of restaurant booth. I mean a straight-sided back and a seat made out of wood or maybe covered with formica or something of that kind, but not upholstered for comfort. And maybe the back of the seat would have a 10-inch opening from the seat up to where the back started for easier cleaning and so forth. And possibly the top of the table would be tiled for a low maintenance and to keep the kids from carving their initials on it or something. In other words, clean and cheerful, but very conservative and easy to keep clean. This room would be for people who did not want to eat in their car, or possibly to supplement those that did eat in the car, who might have air conditioning in their car, or who might be willing to sit in the car, as against those, and I'm speaking particularly of hot climates now in the South in the summertime, where they might not come to the place if they were forced to eat in the car in the heat. This room would have a door into the back room so that it could be serviced at intervals by sweeping the floor and wiping off the tabletops and emptying the waste cans, and of taking any paper goods that was left on the tables and putting that into the waste can by whoever would service it at frequent intervals. There would, of course, be nothing on the table such as salt, pepper, and things of that kind. The table would be absolutely plain, and not even a drinking fountain, or that would make them request extra cups for water and the cost of installing that, maintaining it, so forth. I suppose it would require an acoustical ceiling, as the windows would all be permanent, that is, I mean permanently closed, and would probably have to have a deafening effect for noise by having a soundproof type ceiling. The entire basis for this thinking is that as time goes on, it is my feeling that more and more towns are going to restrict drive-ins unless they have either tables or counter service. This is one of the ways that they are able to restrict drive-ins without zoning against them. I was thinking something along the lines of having possibly 5 booths that would seat 4 people each on each side of the building, which would only necessitate about a width of maybe 7 or 8 feet. We could have a waste can opposite each booth at the wall, which kept inside would always be trim and neat, would of course have to be kept sparkling clean and odorless. As I see it, there would be no ashtrays or anything of that kind, so I suppose they would be putting cigarette butts on the floor, but maybe they would drop them in the paper cup or something of that kind. And sweeping of the floor would have to be done at regular intervals anyway with a small broom and a dustpan, so that shouldn't be too big a problem. I don't believe this would add very much to our labor cost, if anything, because the small areas would be cleaned up by the cleanup man, whom we have anyway, and most of our operators do not send a man out to clean the green cement around the perimeter of the building and push down waste cans and wipe off the benches and the front counter frequently enough in the day. So we might, in this way, be able to get one man whose job would be to do that, and that's something that should be done anyway. In other words, if they're not doing it now, it's only because they're cheating on that labor cost, which is really a part of the operation. The only factor I can see is that the initial investment would be increased. And by how much, I don't know. Maybe the building would cost an extra $5,000. I'm talking about the cost of the addition to the wall and the extra light fixtures and the tiling and the fixtures themselves, the booths. So without any plumbing and extra heating, I don't think there would be too great a cost. I say no extra heating because I feel that with this small area on each side, that our present heating plant will suffice by merely ducking in some of the heat into that room or rooms. I don't know what you think about this thought, and I wish you would give me your reaction. But as I say, it is predicated on the fact that restrictive zoning is developing in more places, and I think we are smart to anticipate the trend and to think about it now, even though we may not have to use it for a few years ahead. We are having our same old troubles. In fact, I just signed checks today for 2 people and 1 yesterday to give them their registration deposit back because they can't wait. I don't know what we can do about it. We just can't get enough sites to satisfy these people as fast as we'd like to. And I don't see any other way we can do it unless we suddenly got in a lot of money for financing to put more men on to get sites and to go out and some way try to tie up property. Even $100,000 would be a drop in the bucket, but what it would do would be to maybe let us double our staff of men that are out developing sites, and in that way get twice as many. But it's a very frustrating thing to have a fellow wait for 6 months and then come in and say, I can't wait any longer, give me my money back. We certainly don't like to lose him, and he doesn't want to go, he wants to go in the McDonald business, and it's just an unfortunate situation. The billboard contracts are going into the advertising agency real well. They have something like 30 contracts now, and they're continuing to come in. And this is going to be a wonderful thing for us because it's going to publicize our name, and it's going to be a big advantage for our operators and, of course, for ourselves over some of these imitators. It costs so much money to get the artwork and engravings done and all that sort of thing that I don't think we'll have to have any fear of these other fellows doing it for quite a long time to come. However, it's a kind of a paradoxical thing because the more popular we make McDonald's and the more volume of business we do, the more people that want to get into it. And while that's marvelous, we just don't know where to put them. Well, anyway, give me your reaction to this sleeve, and let's kick this thought around by sleeve correspondence. With the downtowner cooking on the stove and something of this kind, maybe we'll keep ahead of these